and there are a lot of different things pulling on the team, the basketball guards don't work in your favor. But this team, with the role that they're on, a lot of the points that Rob mentioned pregame about their connection, their chemistry, their camaraderie, they're enjoying playing basketball together. Good things just start happening, even though you need some luck. You need the ball to bounce your way. You need a camera from 30,000 feet, a NASA camera that was able to get inside the building and see that the ball did not touch LeBron's leg. And all of those things start going right for you when you're putting the right spirit into it. And that's the biggest takeaway I have.
I think when you think about everything that Fish just said, it's amazing that basketball players actually think about the basketball guys. And you think sometimes certain things are just meant to be. And you think about how this team started this game out rolling, and then Orlando's bitch came in and put them up, and then all these other things happened. And then you look at the plus minuses, and you say, okay, all the starters for the Lakers were positive. All the starters for the Orlando Magic were negative. And why was this game so close? It's because of the bench. And I think because they had, I think they had 9 3-pointers in the first half. They only allowed Orlando 2. So it's the little things that allowed them to climb back in this game, but more importantly, believe in themselves, and that's what happened down the stretch.
We obviously have to go to that final possession there for Luke Kennard, and I think, too, back-to-back incredible ATO possessions, which makes a head coach very happy, I'm sure, if you're J.J. Redick in this moment. But as 2 clutch shooters yourselves, I mean, heck, that is your nickname, right? What does that take? What's that moment like for Luke, especially the newest Laker? Hasn't been here long.
You know, when you're a shooter, and you think about Luke Kennard, he's one of the best shooters in the NBA, and you stand out there wide open, and there's no other choice but to knock that down. I think for him, that's probably the best shot and the cleanest shot he's had in a long time. Look how wide open he is. He could have ate a sandwich before they got out there. And I think for him, being that is a vote of confidence, because you think about, he just said in his interview, he hadn't been shooting it all that well. But when you're able to knock down a shot like this in a big moment to keep your streak alive, the biggest thing out of this, not the dub, is the confidence that he just built. Even though he's a confident shooter, but just sometimes when you make shots like this in this moment, you think there's nothing you can't do.
I'd also add, like Luka scored 12 million points in the last 48 hours.
Literally.
And the intelligence of including LeBron in both of the offensive actions to end the game, one from the sideline out of bounds, one from the baseline out of bounds, knowing that when LeBron is involved in screening action, one, he's a great screener. So the guy he's screening for is either going to be open, or in a lot of situations, the first time 2 guys ran off with Austin and LeBron was wide open. That time, 2 guys ran with LeBron and Luke Kennard was wide open. And so even just Luka's willingness to almost be a decoy in a situation where he scored more points than everybody in the building, and the willingness to just do what's best for the team to get the win. And again, great execution and confidence by the guys down the stretch.
You know what I like best out of the happiest guy is the oldest guy. You see it in those videos right there. I don't think LeBron wanted to let him go. He was just hugging. That shows you how the passion and the love he has for this game. You know, you can see some people at this moment say, oh, okay, I hug you once, let's go to the locker room. But he's still like that. That's the child joy he has for this game. And I love seeing things like that.
He's choosing to stay in the moment with everything, even when he's on the golf course, staring a gator down. I don't know if you guys saw that video. That was just from yesterday. I do want to say this really quick because J.J. Redick has sat down, but I heard you guys talking in the pregame, and you mentioned body language and what you're seeing, especially during this stretch. It's one thing to be on this streak and experience the winning and the magic that they are right now, but for a player like Luke Kennard, who you know you're going to need if you want to go places when it matters most in the postseason, for this team to see that kind of celebration and reaction, what does it tell you moving forward about the position that they're in right now?
That there is trust within the group, you know, a willingness to just make the right basketball play. It's something that the coaching staff focuses on daily. They talk about it daily, and they've played the game that way. Yeah, Luke Kennard in that situation is wide open. Marcus does have to throw it to him, but if LeBron had been driving the basketball and 2 guys were on him, he would have thrown a hook pass back to Luke Kennard for that shot as well. It's very similar to the pass LeBron made to Rui in the corner in Toronto, when he could have gone for the double-digit streak. And so all season long, in these moments, they've just tried to make the right basketball play that's needed for the team. And that trust, even sometimes when things don't work out or the ball doesn't go in, the trust is what will take them into April, May, and June, because they've been building on that all season.
You know, sometimes when you sit in the second chair and someone takes your word, because I was going to say trust too. That's the first thing that came to my mind. The trust that they have in one another, the belief that they're going to make the shot. So I can't say anymore because he took what I was going to say. You got to trust everybody on your team. If you don't trust them, it shows. And because you think about, I'm going to take, and I see you open alley, I can feel the distrust if I don't kick it to you. But if I kick it to you and you miss it or make it, and I still like, that's the trust that they have. And I think that's what the Lakers have now, that trust.
You know why you guys were so aligned? Because I asked a question about winning. And how many rings do you have between the two of you?
Well, Rob got 7.
You just get it. Thanks for doing the math. Rob's got 7. He reminds us a lot.
No,
We're going to head back to Orlando. Orlando, it's time to hear from Coach JJ Redick. It's brought to you by your Toyota dealers.
You had the view like kind of right in line from where Luke's shot was. Just the emotions of it all, seeing the ball go up in the air and how the ball got into his hands based on what you were looking at to draw up out of the timeout.
Yeah. So down 2, and we get LeBron open. We actually just challenged this call in our last game, and the ball got initially hit, but then if LeBron still has possession of the ball and then gets fouled across the arm, that's considered a foul because we challenged that. We lost that challenge. So again, another night where explanations just get changed based on a whim. We had to overcome a lot tonight, and by that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Greg St. Jean drew up the baseline out of bounds play. We were looking at LeBron as sort of the first option on that slip. Maybe Luka coming off the double if they messed up on a red. Braun did a great job drawing 2. And I just, for Smart, he makes the first baseline or side out of bounds play, makes the right pass, perfect on the money to LeBron, and then on the baseline to have to go through your check downs, and then he recognizes that Luke was wide open as soon as he caught it and released it. Yeah, we knew it was in. We all had that perfect angle. It was whatever the highest grade on Noah is. It would have been that.
We had that conversation a couple weeks ago about, how many shots Luke makes in an empty gym, right? Like, and there's probably nobody in the world, right, who's going to knock down more than those. Even he said 1 or 2 more than you. How do you feel for him getting that moment now after all the moments on this road trip from other guys?
I'm really happy for him. I really am. Him and I had a great conversation this morning. He wants it so bad. He wants to help this team, and I think it's hard getting traded midseason. I've talked about it so many times, and sometimes you get in an early rhythm, and then sometimes you get out of that rhythm. And he, all night was just really, really good for us, and deserved that opportunity and all the work. That's a money shot for him.
JJ, without addressing the specifics of what you're talking about in terms of overcoming a lot, generally speaking, your team at times this year has been pretty affected by officiating. Just how
I didn't say officiating.
Your team has been affected by exterior things they cannot control in games,
external situations.
Yeah, sure. Just in terms of growth and poise, how good of a test was this for your team tonight, and just how did you see them come through?
Yeah, I thought we've had a number of things happen in the last couple of weeks. We've had a number of things happen on this road trip that has shown growth for our group. We did a good job of just playing through stuff, whether it was some cold shooting, some hot shooting from them for a little stretch there, getting down, playing on the road. Again, the external circumstances of whatever tonight was, and not allowing that to get us off our game. Truly, we just kept playing. We talked about it at halftime. We talked about it in huddles. One of the weirdest games I've been a part of in that regard.
Jay, did you guys get any explanation from the officials on the technical for Luka?
No, but we'll obviously try to get that rescinded. I'm not sure what happened. I do know that, there were certain things said in a language that the referees couldn't understand in references to Luka's mom. I think they just, Austin gets targeted 3 times by Carter. Like they didn't have a real good control of that basketball game.
And the win streak's now at 9, and you guys have done it in a variety of ways, but have the same end result. What's this felt like to ride this wave at this stage of the season?
Man, that's a good question. Every stage of the season is exhausting for different reasons. This week has obviously been a lot in terms of the intensity, the preparation, the travel. We've got 2 more games on this trip. We get to go home for a little bit. We've got our first 2-day break in between games, not counting All-Star break since December 27th, an opportunity to practice, which is exciting. It's all felt, I think, rewarding to see the growth for the group. But it's on to the next thing. There's a lot we can get better at from tonight. There's a lot we can get better at from Miami. I do think growth-wise, I thought our defense in the second half was on par with where we needed to be. But yeah, it's all kind of blends together, and you got to enjoy the good moments.
It's really good when you don't have to talk about the situation going on with Luka Doncic right now regarding picking up his 16th technical foul in this game, which according to league policy means he will be suspended for the next game played, which would be versus Detroit on Monday. However, JJ just mentioned they'll try and figure out to see if they can get that rescinded. If not, nonetheless, obviously that's a situation that's on their hands right now if he does miss. But you did mention, 12 million points in the last 48 hours for Luka. He is at 133 over the last 72. So despite he had himself a performance, obviously got going early, but you got to factor in the situation and the facts that are at hand right now.
Yes, and the reacting is always going to get you in trouble, right? There's a way to respond to what something that is said or something that is done that may be disrespectful to you or your family, etc. And if you're aware of the circumstances, you have a choice to make. Mm-hmm. He made the choice to react in the moment. They can win the game without him, to be honest. If he doesn't play on Monday night, that's just the reality of it because of the situation that they're in. The Pistons won't have Cade Cunningham. The Lakers have enough on their roster to still get it done. And then you just move on to the next game, and you don't overthink it. They'll go through their process of trying to see if they can get it rescinded, but it is what it is at this point.
I want to see him get it rescinded, not just the fact that Luka's on the roll, but I'm thinking more for him and the role he is as far as MVP. This is one of the key games, especially going up against Detroit, who's the top team in the East. And that performance against them is going to make, the voters look up and say, oh, even though there's no Cade Cunningham, but I'm still, sometimes they don't watch. They just look at Detroit beat by Lakers and, oh, Luka had 60 points. And for me, that's the one thing that I hope it gets rescinded and Luka understands that it hits home for him. Like, I can't put myself in that position. You can say whatever you want about my family, my daughter, my whatever it is, you got to understand, those are just words. Words aren't going to bother you, but getting that L on him is going to bother him more than those words. And so I think that's what this situation can put Luka into the mindset like, oh, I got to be more presence of mind not to get out of my character and be better.
Yeah, because 2 things. One, once I know that about you, there's going to be somebody in the playoffs that'll do the same thing to get you to react. If that's what it takes to get you a technical or your 5th foul or whatever, 6th foul, whatever the situation may be. Secondly, when the NBA does go through the process of determining whether to rescind it or not, they're going to talk to the big guy, Bataze, and get a statement from him, ask him what he said, make sure that everything is known, the facts. And depending on what he said, if he tells the truth, or they may ask other players that were within earshot of the conversation. They're going to talk to the referees about what they may have heard. It's possible it is rescinded if they feel like what was said was derogatory enough or negative enough that a player should have a little bit of leeway to say something back.
But I always laugh because I've watched certain players, I ain't gonna call them name, Draymond Green, that says things to the refs and they let it slide. But when you say things to another player and there's no pushing or shoving, you want to call it double take on the players. Stop taking money out of the players' pockets by calling that. And when you let another guy just talk to you like directly to you, crazy. That doesn't register in my mind sometimes, Allie. I know I ain't the smartest guy, but that right there,
There was one time
don't make sense.
that it was given, and it costed him a pretty big playoff game from the Ohio girl herself. Nonetheless, something we'll keep an eye on, as Luka did pick up, as it stands right now, his 16th technical foul of the regular season. Let's get you to Orlando. Check out the high.
Tonight, 9 in a row is within reach, and I need you to understand exactly what is happening with this Los Angeles Lakers team right now, because the last 2 weeks have produced a collection of moments, performances, statements, and revelations that individually would each be the story of someone's entire season. And they have all happened simultaneously, in rapid succession, building on top of each other in a way that is genuinely difficult to process in real time as a fan. A 41-year-old man broke his own record as the oldest player in NBA history to register a triple-double. And that performance was completely overshadowed by his own teammate on the same night. A head coach who was being openly questioned and whose job security was being discussed in national media just received the loudest and most public praise of his entire coaching career from one of the most credible voices in the sport. One of the most respected and connected players currently active in this league went on his own podcast and issued a warning about this Lakers team that every single contender in the Western Conference needs to print out and put on their film room wall. A rookie center playing for the Sacramento Kings is scoring 30 points in back-to-back games and making the Lakers front office quietly reconsider a draft day decision from last summer that nobody was paying attention to until right now. And tonight, the Los Angeles Lakers are 45 wins and 25 losses. They have won 8 consecutive games, and they are walking into the Kia Center in Orlando looking to accomplish something that this franchise has not done since the first month of 2020. Everything you need to know about where this team stands, where it is genuinely capable of going, and what the rest of the NBA is afraid to say out loud. All of it is right here, and we are not leaving anything on the table tonight. If you are a Lakers fan and you have been riding through every moment of this run, every comeback, every road win, every big shot, every performance that made you forget how hard the first half of this season was, hit that like button right now, because we have an enormous amount to cover, and I do not want you to miss a single piece of it. So let us begin talking firstly about LeBron James. Because before we get to tonight's game preview, before we talk about Draymond Green's warning to the entire league, before we get into the draft conversation that is slowly becoming impossible to ignore, we need to start with something LeBron said publicly this week that has been sitting with me since the moment I heard it, and that every single fan who believed in him through the ugly stretch of this season deserves to hear directly and fully. For weeks, a narrative had been building in the NBA media ecosystem that grew from a quiet observation into a loud and repeated claim. The Los Angeles Lakers were better without LeBron James. And to be completely honest with you, there was a statistical foundation underneath that narrative that made it difficult to simply dismiss. The team went 9-2 in games where Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves played without LeBron during certain stretches of the season. In 2 of those games against elite Eastern Conference competition, they held the New York Knicks to 97 points and the Minnesota Timberwolves to 106, with Jalen Brunson and Anthony Edwards combining to shoot just 10 for 34 from the floor. The defense looked sharper in those games, the rotations looked more cohesive, and the offensive structure looked cleaner, without the usage questions that come with having 3 players who all need the ball to be at their best. The argument had legs. The media ran with it. And LeBron James, a man with 4 championships, the all-time scoring record, and 23 years of professional basketball experience, sat with it, processed it, went out and posted a 19-point, 15-rebound, 10-assist triple-double against the Miami Heat in what was his second triple-double of the season, and another entry in his ongoing collection of historical records. And then walked to the microphone and said what he actually thought about all of it. He said they are absolutely wrong. He said the narrative sells papers and generates podcast clicks and drives engagement far more easily than the truth does, and that everyone pushing it was simply incorrect. But here is what I need every fan watching to understand the reason that statement landed. The reason it felt true rather than defensive is not because LeBron said it. It is because of what he did to make it impossible to argue with. He is shooting 64% from the field over his last 5 games on 13 field goal attempts per night. Not because he is being passive, but because every single one of those attempts is coming in the exact right moment, against the exact right defender, in the exact right context within the offense. He is co-leading the team in rebounds. He is 3rd in assists. He dove for a loose ball against the Denver Nuggets in overtime during one of the biggest moments of this winning streak, a moment that went viral and that Brian Windhorst specifically pointed to as the clearest visual proof of a leader who is completely bought in. The narrative was not entirely wrong in what it identified. The Lakers did need a different version of LeBron, a version willing to operate as the 3rd option, willing to let Doncic and Reeves close games, willing to restructure everything about how he had played basketball for the previous 2 decades in service of what this specific team needs in this specific moment. The narrative was completely wrong in its proposed solution. The answer was never LeBron's absence. The answer was LeBron's evolution. And watching a 41-year-old man with nothing left to prove choose evolution over ego, over legacy protection, over the gravitational pull of 2 decades of being the best player on every floor he has ever walked onto. I believe that is the single most underrated storyline of this entire basketball season. Not just for the Lakers, but across the entire NBA. The person who has been studying that evolution most carefully, who has tracked LeBron James through more seasons and more franchises and more chapters than almost any journalist alive, made an appearance on ESPN this week and said something that carries a specific weight when it comes from that specific source. Brian Windhorst does not hand out optimism about LeBron's teams freely or casually. He has spent 15 years watching LeBron navigate the difference between teams he genuinely believes in and teams he is simply performing for while something better presents itself. And he has developed a finely calibrated ability to identify which category any given Lakers roster falls into by watching nothing more than body language and mannerisms and the specific quality of engagement that LeBron brings to practice and to pre-game warm-ups and to fourth-quarter huddles. This week, Windhorst looked at all of those indicators and said the best thing he can say about the Los Angeles Lakers right now is that LeBron believes. Not believes they might win some games. Not believes they can make the playoffs or win a series or be competitive. Believes. The full version of that word, in the full weight that it carries when applied to a player of this competitive magnitude. Windhorst explained that there are moments in certain seasons, he has seen it multiple times across LeBron's career, where you can tell by watching him that the belief has quietly drained out, that he is going through the motions at an elite level because elite is his floor rather than his ceiling, and that his mind has already begun processing what comes next rather than fully committing to what is currently in front of him. He said he does not see any version of that right now. He sees a LeBron James whose body language screams investment, whose mannerisms on the bench during big moments reflect genuine joy rather than professional obligation, and whose competitive engagement in the fourth quarters of these 8 wins has the specific quality that he associates with teams LeBron is truly trying to win championships with, rather than teams he is simply finishing contracts alongside. And then Windhorst added the sentence that I personally needed to hear from someone with his track record and his access. He said he can now see how the Lakers win a playoff series, and he can now see, quite frankly, how LeBron James has a future with this team past the current season. That second part, about LeBron's future, is enormous in ways that go beyond this season, because it means that Windhorst is not just describing current form, but is projecting forward, suggesting that the structure JJ Redick has built and the role LeBron has accepted within it could sustain itself past this year in a way that makes long-term planning around this core genuinely viable. Thinking about it carefully, when Windhorst says LeBron believes, he is identifying the single most important variable in the entire Lakers equation. More important than seeding, more important than matchups, more important than injury reports, because a LeBron James who fully believes is the most powerful competitive force this sport has ever produced. And right now, that force is completely and entirely focused on winning a 5th championship. Now let us talk about the man who created the conditions that allowed LeBron to believe in the first place. Because the work JJ Redick has done over the last 3 weeks deserves a full and honest accounting, rather than a passing mention between highlight reel moments. Kendrick Perkins went on NBA Today and gave Redick exactly that accounting, loudly and publicly, and without any qualification or caveat. He said directly, with the full authority of a man who has played 14 seasons and earned the right to judge what good coaching looks like up close. JJ, I am going to give you your flowers today. You have been coaching your behind off. And then he walked through the specific evidence in a way that anyone watching this team closely will immediately recognize as accurate. He started with DeAndre Ayton, a player who was publicly unhappy with his role, who was being phased out of fourth quarter rotations, who generated real questions about whether bringing him in had been a mistake, and noted that Ayton is now described as a vital and crucial piece of the team's closing lineup, posting 12.4 points and 8.2 rebounds per game while shooting an extraordinary 66.9% from the field. He talked about Marcus Smart, a player who signed for $5 million on a buyout and who could have easily disappeared into the background of a star-heavy roster, and described how Redick found the precise role that unlocked Smart's value. Defensive stopper, timely three-point shooter at 39% from beyond the arc this month, decision maker in critical half-court possessions, and the kind of veteran presence that makes younger players around him better simply by operating with a standard that does not accept shortcuts. He pointed to LeBron's body language, the exact same thing Windhorst identified from the outside, as the primary visual indicator of a locker room that has found its identity and its direction under this coaching staff. And he made the observation that I think captures the essential quality of what Redick has built more precisely than any statistic. Guys are being stars in their role, not settling for their role, not accepting their role reluctantly, being stars within it. Rui Hachimura hitting the shots that matter in the fourth quarter without needing 25 minutes to do it. Luke Kennard providing spacing and intelligence without needing to be a focal point. Jackson Hayes providing energy and athleticism in short bursts without needing to be a starter. Every single player on this roster understanding not just what they are supposed to do, but why it matters and how it connects to what everyone else is doing around them. The defensive numbers confirm the structural improvement in a way that removes all doubt. 5.1 blocks per game this month compared to 4.2 for the full season. 9.4 steals per game compared to 8.3 overall. A defensive rating of 111.3 over the last 12 games that ranks 9th in the entire league during that span for a team that spent most of the first half of the season ranked in the bottom third defensively. Brian Windhorst also weighed in on what Redick has built, adding the institutional credibility of his long-term perspective. He said he can now see how this team wins a playoff series, and he can see how LeBron has a future with this specific group past this year. That sentence from Windhorst is not a casual endorsement. It is the conclusion of someone who watches basketball for a living, who has seen this franchise through its highest moments and its lowest ones, and who is now saying publicly that what JJ Redick has constructed over the last 3 weeks has the structural integrity to last beyond a regular season winning streak. I believe Redick's ability to manage personalities, redistribute roles, and rebuild collective belief in a locker room full of veterans with enormous egos and legitimate individual ambitions is the most underappreciated coaching achievement in the NBA this season, and that the 8-game winning streak is the result rather than the story. While all of that has been building from the inside, LeBron evolving, Windhorst endorsing, Redick rebuilding, a voice from outside the organization arrived this week with an assessment of this Lakers team that every fan needs to hear in full, because it contains both the highest praise and the most honest concern that anyone has offered publicly about where this team genuinely stands. Draymond Green went on his podcast and addressed the Lakers directly. And when Draymond Green spends time on his own platform talking about a team that is not his own, it means that team has entered his calculations in a way that he cannot simply dismiss. He started by acknowledging the instinct. Part of him, he said, wants to say the Lakers are not very dangerous in the playoffs at all. And then, he said, the other part of him knows better. Because when you have Luka Doncic and LeBron James on the floor at the same time, healthy, playing with this kind of momentum and this kind of confidence behind them, you have two of the best game managers in the last 30 years of professional basketball. And you always have a chance against anyone, always. He was specific and detailed about what he means by game managers. Not just players who score, but players who understand the geometry of a basketball game well enough to make the right decision in the right moment under the specific pressure of playoff situations. Players who do not need momentum or a hot shooting night to be effective because their value is rooted in reading the game rather than dominating it physically. Doncic and LeBron are both that simultaneously on the same team, complementing each other in ways that create defensive problems that simply cannot be solved with a single scheme. Draymond also provided the numbers context for what he was watching. Doncic averaging 40.9 points during the winning streak on 50.2% shooting and 42.2% from three, with consecutive games of 40 and 60 points on back-to-back nights, and LeBron averaging 20.4 points on 64.6% shooting while controlling the game from the weak side with the intelligence and timing of a player who has spent 23 years studying every possible defensive adjustment. And then, Draymond did what honest people do. He gave the other side of it. He said the Lakers' defense, while markedly improved in March and genuinely competitive over the last 12 games, is still not a championship-caliber defensive unit when forced to guard without their zone rotations and their trapping schemes and the specific gimmicks that have been so effective during this winning streak. He said in a playoff series against a team with intelligent enough offensive preparation, those gimmicks get solved. Maybe in game 1, maybe in game 2. And then you have to guard with real man coverage for real stretches of real elimination basketball, and that is a test this team has not yet fully passed. He specifically mentioned Marcus Smart as the reason for cautious optimism on that end, and DeAndre Ayton's improved engagement in the paint as a development worth watching. Draymond's warning is not pessimism, and it is not a dismissal. It is the most useful and precise public assessment of this team's actual ceiling and actual floor that anyone has offered all season. And I believe the Lakers coaching staff knows exactly what Draymond is pointing at, which is why the defensive development over the last 3 weeks is not being treated as a bonus but as a necessity. The specific reason why every playoff contender is now watching this team with genuine concern rather than casual interest. Why Draymond felt the need to address them on his own platform. Why the scouting reports are getting longer and more detailed. All of it traces back to one player and one set of numbers that tell a story about value that goes far beyond individual scoring totals. JJ Redick has been building the statistical case for Luka Doncic's MVP candidacy publicly and without apology, and the numbers he is presenting deserve to be heard in full because they reframe the entire conversation about what this player actually means to everything around him. The Lakers' net rating with Doncic on the floor is plus 3.4 points per 100 possessions. Without him, the team is being outscored by 2.0 per 100 possessions, a swing of 5.4 points. That represents the difference between a playoff team and a play-in team over the course of a full season. The three-man lineup of Doncic, LeBron, and Reeves together produces a net rating of plus 5.8, but LeBron and Reeves without Doncic fall to minus 1.1. Think about what that means. Two of the most talented players in the entire NBA operating together without the third member of their trio are a below-average unit. LeBron James' individual true shooting percentage increases by 6.3% when Doncic is on the floor compared to when he is not, meaning that the presence of Doncic makes the most decorated scorer in NBA history measurably more efficient. Marcus Smart's true shooting jumps by 8.5%. DeAndre Ayton's improves by 4.9%. Luke Kennard's rises by 3.5%. Every single player on this roster shoots better, scores more efficiently, and makes better decisions when Luka Doncic is directing the offense, and that collective elevation is the statistical fingerprint of a player whose value to his team is genuinely irreplaceable, rather than simply impressive. The record reinforces everything. The Lakers are 29-10 when Doncic scores at least 30, and only 10-9 when he plays but does not reach that mark. They are 18-4 when he finishes with at least 10 assists, and 21-15 when he plays but falls short. He is averaging 33.4 points per game on the season, the highest single-season average by a Lakers player since Kobe Bryant 2 decades ago. And his 6-game scoring average of 41.3 points is the highest by a Laker since Bryant in 2011 and 2012. Redick said it directly. Without Doncic having the season he is having, the Lakers would not be anywhere near the position they currently occupy. I believe the MVP debate between Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is ultimately a philosophical debate about whether the award should go to the best player on the best team or the most irreplaceable player on a very good team. And that on the second question, there is only one honest answer. The fear that contenders have carried about Doncic since this trade happened was never abstract or theoretical. It was based on specific and documented postseason history that makes the current regular season performances feel like a preview rather than an anomaly. He led the Dallas Mavericks past the 64-win Phoenix Suns as a 4th seed in 2022. averaging 28.4 points, 9.1 rebounds, and 8.7 assists against one of the most talented rosters assembled in the modern era of the sport. He led Dallas past the 57-win Oklahoma City Thunder in 2024 with 24.7 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 8.7 assists. He went to the NBA Finals. He became the first player in the history of the league to lead all postseason participants in points, rebounds, assists, and steals simultaneously. A statistical sweep of every meaningful category that had never been accomplished by anyone, ever. His career playoff averages of 30.9 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 7.8 assists per game exceed his regular season numbers, which tells you something fundamental about who Luka Doncic becomes when the games carry genuine consequence and when the margin for error disappears. What every contender feared when this trade was completed was not that Doncic would be adequate with the Lakers, or even that he would be good. It was that he would be exactly this, arriving at the playoffs with an 8-game winning streak and 100 points scored in 24 hours, and a crowd of Miami Heat fans chanting his name for the MVP award, and the full, complete, unstoppable version of his game operating at absolute peak intensity at exactly the right moment of the season. That fear is now confirmed. And I believe the teams sitting above the Lakers in the Western Conference standings are doing their scouting preparation for a potential playoff meeting with Los Angeles, with a level of detailed attention and genuine concern that would have seemed excessive 3 weeks ago, and now seems entirely rational. Before we close out and talk about tonight's game against Orlando, there is one more conversation that belongs in this script, and it is an uncomfortable one. Not because it threatens anything about this current playoff push, but because it raises a real and legitimate question about what the Lakers center position looks like 12 months from now and beyond. Maxime Renaud was selected by the Sacramento Kings with the 42nd overall pick in the 2025 NBA Draft. The Los Angeles Lakers selected Ado Thiero 6 picks earlier, at number 36, trading up specifically to secure him. The reasoning was sound and defensible in the moment. The Lakers desperately needed athletic wing defenders who could guard multiple positions and provide the defensive versatility that championship rosters require. Thiero had the physical profile and the college tape to project as exactly that kind of player, and the investment of trading up made sense given the roster's most pressing needs. But Maxime Renaud, selected 6 picks later by